Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Fantastic Four issue number 253, cover dated April 1983. Now there's no cover caption here, it's an intriguing cover, quite abstract. The Fantastic Four are voyaging through the negative zone, but we've no details on what the situation is here. Just this interesting shot of their four heads at various angles, and then these alien creatures with their staffs there on top of this sphere that is traveling through space in the negative zone. It's definitely intriguing, and as ever we've got a fresh set of illustrations of the Fantastic Four in the cover corner box as well by Byrne. Yeah, so the cover is by John Byrne, pencils, inks by him, and the colours are by Glynis Wein on this particular cover. Let's open it up to the splash page. There's 22 pages of story and art in this issue. We have the title of the story, The Fabulous Fantastic Four Learn the Dark Secret of the Quest. So this is yet another sci-fi influenced story. It's one that you'll see, and perhaps if you too are a sci-fi fanatic like John Byrne was, there's the influence of the sci-fi story Proxima Centauri by Murray Leinster, as well as subsequently Robert A. Heinlein's Orphans of the Sky, two stories, the novella universe followed by Common Sense. Both of those texts very much intertext influences on some of the ideas covered in this particular story. So the creative team here, John Byrne, story and art, Jim Novak, letters, and Glynis Wein on colours. The narrative caption states, look upon the ever-changing face of a universe parallel to our own. This is the negative zone. We see this massive spaceship here. Definitely something there, Captain, says someone aboard that particular ship. Just the design of this reminds me of, if you're a Transformers fan, reminds me a little bit of Shockwave. But let's continue with the story. So now we get a look inside the ship itself, aboard the starship Kastor's Hope. So we see these alien creatures as they were on the cover, and they have come up upon an object in space, and the captain decides that it should be beamed aboard or pulled aboard with tractor beams. So then the aliens go to investigate what has been brought aboard their ship, and of course it's the Fantastic Four. So the thing there asks Reed, you sure this atmosphere is breathable, Reed? Smells like every locker room in the USA. It's interesting. Reed says, the air is clearly very old and often recycled. My sensors show this ship to be at least 10,000 years old, Ben. And Johnny says, guess that means it's a robot ship, huh? Not too likely a living crew would keep a ship in service that long. But Sue says, don't be too sure about that, Johnny. It seems like maybe it is Sue. Yeah, she's got some kind of portable device there. Don't be too sure about that, Johnny. I'm getting some kind of life form readings. So you can see here when you pay attention to the furnishings of the ship, they do look aged. There's a lot of grime and rust there, and it's intriguing because normally when we see ships, starships, in sci-fi stories, they're usually gleaming, shining. This one isn't. Reed says to Sue, you're right, Sue. There seem to be two distinct life types on this ship. One with a nearly human metabolic rate, and Sue continues and says, and one with heartbeats so slow they'd be nearly dead by our standards. And Johnny adds, well, I'll say one thing, this 2 weeks we've been exploring the negative zone sure ain't been dull. So remember something from a couple of issues ago, Reed said before they went into the negative zone that time runs differently there from how it runs in our dimension on Earth. So if 2 weeks have passed for the Fantastic Four in their voyage in the negative zone, not so long has passed on Earth. The thing says, and it's getting more interesting every minute. Hotshot, here comes the welcome wagon. So they attack because they view the Fantastic Four as monsters. Of course, the thing is able to withstand that blast. And Johnny flames on. Let's turn the page. And we're going to get a little bit of a fight now between the Fantastic Four and these aliens, the Kastorians. So Johnny runs rings of flame around them. Sue turns invisible and grabs the staff from his lance from her in mid-air. He thinks the ship is bewitched. Here's the thing, giving an example of his super strength there, lifting up a huge hunk of machinery. "It ain't witchery, Crinklehead," he exclaims. "Just what happens when 4 all-American good guys get exposed to cosmic rays. Now I think I'll just finish this fight quick and easy." But someone off panel exclaims, "Stop." And so this Kastorian steps forward and says, "By the lost moons of Kestor, am I crewed by idiots? Did I command that you attack these aliens? Lower your weapons, remember who you are." And Reed recognizes that this must be someone in authority. He introduces himself as Reed Richards of the planet Earth, and the Kastorian responds, "I do not know that world, but I bid you welcome. I am called Captain." So the Thing here says to Reed, it's always the Thing's character to be suspicious and skeptical. You can see that on his face as well. That's really well done by Byrne. The Thing asks, "You mean that's it? One word from this guy and we all make nice." And Reed, who's no fool, says, "A little cautious trust won't hurt, old friend. They attacked out of fear. If we continue to demonstrate we're no threat, I think we will be quite safe." So they're led through the ship, and we see what a mess the place is. We'll get an explanation for why it's something of a mess shortly. But I really like Byrne's work here on the wiring and circuitry here in the backgrounds and foregrounds of the panel. And then they're led to a dining room, and there's food there, and the food smells good. "Some setup," says the Thing, "and something sure smells good." And it looks like there's something organic growing as well in the dining room. So of course the Fantastic Four, some of them, like the Thing, Johnny is going to be skeptical about whether the food is safe to eat. Johnny says, "Slow down, Thing. We don't know if this stuff is safe for us to eat." Sue asks, "Is it all right?" And Reed says, "My portable sensor shows nothing incompatible with our biology, darling. In other words, dig in." So he's not worried about the food being poisoned either. Look at the huge forks in these massive plates of food. How are the Fantastic Four going to use them? Well, Sue has grabbed hers like a big pitchfork. That's pretty funny. And then there's a conversation between Reed and the Captain. "Now, Captain," says Reed, "I think you were going to tell us your story." So the Captain begins his story, and we're going to find out who they are and why they're in space and what's going on with their ship. "Once there was a world called Kestor," he says, "a gleaming blue gem afloat in a sea of pearly moons." So that looks very interesting. "For 1,000,000 generations our civilization had thrived. We'd built a great technology, a great culture of art and faith. We lived in total harmony with our world until one day the world revolted against us. Our priest scientists discovered the terrible groundquakes were a tidal effect. The hurtling moons were shifting in their orbits. Kestor was doomed." So there's shades of, obviously, Superman here and the situation with Krypton. But back into this particular story, but there was a slim chance of survival for our race. The High Priestess made her fateful pronouncement. 20,000 of us would be chosen to leave Kestor to seek another world. So very inventive visuals by Byrne on this page in particular of this alien civilization and their planet. And now more inventive imagery as well on these pages. I mean, think about it. We're getting illustrations of what the Captain is talking about in terms of the origin story of the Kastorians being in space, and Byrne drawing these images of planets and ships and the interior of the ship. It's all really well done. And so the Captain continues, "It was a sign of the high development of our faith that there was little panic. Lots were drawn, selected by the infallible computers of the pre-scientists. The survivors were chosen. Within a week, we boarded our great ark, and not a moment too soon. At the moment of launch, the most horrendous quakes ripped Kestor. Then we learned the true reason. The once constant moons had wandered from their true orbits as the sun exploded into a supernova. That was something the pre-scientists had not anticipated. The ship was buffeted by the fury of the star blast. Damage was incredible. So this is the key damage here that we see, and most terrible of all was the damage to our computers in the navigational core. The programmed data on our intended destination was lost to us forever. Acting on emergency programs, the main computers sought a solution to our dilemma. Scanning our personality files, the computers dipped into the cryogenic capsules in which all 20,000 of us waited in stasis. 500 of us were selected, 500 who would now act as the crew of Kastor's Hope, guiding her through the void. 500 who would never see the face of our promised new world. So let's turn the page here. Get past the advertisements. And what's the problem? So the captain says, those 500 were our ancestors, Reed Richards. My multi-great-grandfather was the first to be called captain. That title and our unending quest has been handed down for 500 generations. We'll probably go on for 1,000 more. So Reed has been listening all the while, and I really like this piece of dialogue that Byrne gives him. He's got his chin resting on his hand there. Perhaps not, Captain. On my world, I have a reputation for fixing the unfixable. That's a great line. Perhaps if I could see the damaged computer core. So the captain says there, my friend, the damage is beyond our skills to repair. And remember, this is over 10,000 years they haven't figured out how to fix the navigational core of the computer system, the ship's computer system, because it's inaccessible. And Reed says, out of your reach, perhaps, Captain. And then he's able to stretch up into the computer machinery itself. And I just find that that's a kind of stretching credibility. These guys had 10,000 years and they couldn't pull this down and make their way to the part of the computer system that was damaged. It's incredible, but we need it for the story. We need it so that Reed Richards is the one who can fix it. He says here, I was right. Although the damage to the primary memory system is irreparable, there are several backup systems. Minor damage to the couplings prevented these from fully kicking in, but that damage can be repaired. So he can do that fairly swiftly. And then the scene cuts away to Earth, our dimension, and the apartment of what's her name again? D'Angelo. Let's see. Are we given it in the dialogue here? I don't see it. So let's see. Does she introduce herself? No. I just forget her first name as I make this review video. It'll come up, I'm sure, and maybe on the next page. But what I'm interested in here is the work that Byrne has done on the furnishings of the apartment, including a cultural reference of the time period, which is, look up there, a poster of E.T. On the wall. So D'Angelo here is wondering about, or rather her new apartment mate is wondering about whether she might call Johnny Storm of the Fantastic Four because she's taken a fancy to him. So she picks up the phone and calls the Fantastic Four headquarters. Oh yeah, she's just gotten a new hairdo from her roommate, and he's not in. Okay, so she says, well then, could I leave a message? And she's cut off. And so her roommate asks, you look like you've seen a ghost. And she replies, talk to one, more like, I don't know who the FF have answering their phones for him, but that voice gave me goosebumps on my goosebumps. Spooky. So this is really funny when I turned the page to see who answered the phone in the Fantastic Four headquarters of the Baxter building. Who could it be? Let's turn the page. It was Annihilus. It's bizarre. Why on earth would he answer a ringing phone? So he's laughing anyway to himself like a Silver Age villain. Cold metallic laughter rings through the Fantastic Four's headquarters. Fools, earthlings are all such fools and cretins. And look, he's wrecked the phone even after he answered it. There's her name, Juliet D'Angelo, and her roommate is Sharon Selleck. So Annihilus here is flying around the Baxter building. He's taking care of Franklin Richards, who's imprisoned, as well as Alicia Masters. He's got the run of the place, but he starts to feel some pain. My muscles scream, their anguish, my lungs burn. So he takes off his helmet. My exoskeletal form is all that stands between me and the final void. So we just get a glimpse there at the side of his real face. Yet I must sometimes remove the helmet, he says, lest it threaten to suffocate me. See how it mocks me with the image of my true lost face. My time runs out, he says, but with it go the finally fleeting moments of 2 universes. This one and my own negative zone. Soon shall reign annihilation. So that's his plan. He wants to destroy 2 universes. And that's all happening while the Fantastic Four in the negative zone are busy with the Kastorians. So the captain there says, Reed, having fixed the navigational computer system, they find the world that they were originally programmed to land on, with their 20,000 survivors of Kastor. And the captain says, it seems perfect, my friends, a world such as we've prayed for. And look at all the pearly moons orbiting it too, just like the original planet. So another Kastorian says, sensors show conditions nearly identical to Kastor. So it seems like it really is the promised land for these Kastorians. So the ship descends to the planet's surface. Again, this is good storytelling imagery by Byrne. And we get a look at the alien flora and fauna of the planet as the ship touches down. The chief Kastorians get into ceremonial religious robes to make their descent down to the planet's surface. But there's a problem. There's a twist. They're taken by surprise by the life forms, this butterfly. They're horrified. I like the way that Byrne has a close-up on them, starts to pull back, and we're wondering what's the problem here for the Kastorians. Good work here on this kind of monkey creature on the tree. Really nice inking as well. The hatching and stippling that he's using on the foliage and on the mushrooms there and the bark of the tree. It's all really well done by Byrne. Good imagination from him. So what's the problem? The Kastorians, they race up the gangway plank back into the ship. Hurry, Captain, already it's foul air, maybe polluting our lungs, says one of them. And Reed is baffled. Captain, what in the world? What is it? What's wrong? And the captain says, you were mistaken, Reed Richards. This cannot be the world we were meant to colonize. No Kastorian could keep his sanity faced with that. So Reed doesn't understand, but I don't understand. The atmosphere, the gravity, the pressure, even the native flora and fauna are within a fraction of a percentage point of the conditions on Kastor. The world is perfect. But the captain is insistent it is not. It is anything but perfect. You failed us, Reed Richards. The quest must go on. Number 1, he orders flash the bridge, stand by all decks for emergency liftoff. So Sue is baffled too. Reed, how can this be? What went wrong? And Reed, I like the body language of the way he's holding the back of his neck there. Like he's in surprise. I don't know, darling. Everything I learned from the Kastorian data files indicates this world is. And then he gets an idea. Of course, what a fool I've been. Captain, wait, he calls out. It's evolution, don't you see? Evolution. For 500 generations, you of the crew have lived only within the highly controlled environment of this starship. You've evolved so that these conditions now represent your natural state. But that is not the true of the colonists, says Reed. Frozen in suspended animation, they are now exactly as they were when they boarded. And the captain dismisses Reed's words. Nonsense, he exclaims. The Almighty Spirit created all Kastorians, complete and unchanging. We do not evolve. So he orders the launch engines to be fired. The ship rises. Again, this is really well illustrated by Byrne. Let's continue here. And Reed wraps around the captain to stop him. Captain, no, you must not do this. You're condemning the colonists to an eternity in stasis. So the captain demands that he be unhanded. Then he orders the guards to seize the Fantastic Four. Notice too, on these pages, mostly no backgrounds. So Byrne saving time by cutting out the backgrounds, but we know where we are. We're aboard the ship. We don't need to see those backgrounds all the time, in fairness. And now we get another fight. So the Thing here throwing off the Kastorian guards. And we got to have it at least once every issue where he boasts here, or rather he exclaims here, all right, that does it. I don't want to argue with your religions, but mess with Mama Grimm's bouncing baby boy. And we have to have it every single issue. It's clobbering time. So Johnny takes on one of the Kastorians, Sue 2, the Thing ripping the wall from the off of the ship in order to knock over the Kastorian guards. But meanwhile, the captain here is racing to the ship's bridge. Close the hatch, number 1. We must seal them in the airlock. And so number 1 follows the orders given. And Reed is locked out. Blast. I had to let go or my arms would have been trapped, even injured. Now we're locked in here and who knows what the captain may be planning. So the captain exclaims quickly, number 1, Reed Richards is intelligent enough to work out the control surfaces and open that door. We must act before he does. And number 1 replies, act? But Captain, what are you going to do? Our own people are trapped in that airlock with the aliens. So the captain sits down. He says the aliens are truly demons, number 1, sent by some unholy force to test our faith. They must be expunged, flushed into space before they can corrupt any of the crew. Now this is kind of a staple of Byrne's handling of religion, where for the most part religious people are represented as being mistaken in their beliefs. Usually the stories prove they're mistaken, or usually the stories prove that religious faith is blinding, and this connects with Byrne's own atheism, I would say. So, you know, one could criticize the representation of religious faith in Byrne's works, perhaps. I think, for example, Chris Claremont, whatever his own convictions are, gives a bit more balance when he's representing figures with religious faith, such as, for example, Nightcrawler, let's say, just off the top of my head. Number 1 responds to the captain, no, do not do this thing. The life of any Kastorian is too precious to waste. Listen, listen, there's a dread secret you must know. So the dread secret is told to the captain, and he's in shock, and he's crestfallen as well. And then we're back with the fight going on between the Fantastic Four and the Kastorian guards, but it's interrupted by an announcement. Attention all hands. This is the first officer. Lay down your weapons. Cease your attack on the aliens. I repeat, lay down your arms. So Reed says, stop, all of you listen. Look, the hatches are all opening. We're free. So the Fantastic Four race to where the captain went through those doors, and the captain is dead. And number 1 says, the captain is dead, Reed Richards. I've divulged at last the secret guarded by 500 generations of my ancestors. And that secret was too much for the captain's heart and mind to bear. So the Thing asks, secret? What's going on here? Just like all the readers will be asking. So we're coming to the last page, page 22, and we're going to get our final twist in this particular story. So what could it be? Let's get past the advertisements here. I just want to check as well. Any sign of Alpha Flight yet? Not yet, but it's coming. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Byrne is dropping out those backgrounds on some pages, such as here, because it's giving him more time to get the first issue of Alpha Flight in the can, so to speak. So number 1 explains, here we go, the final revelation. 500 generations ago, when the great sun of Kastor exploded, the damage this ship sustained was not only to the navigational core. The most terrible damage was to the very heart of the ship, to the cryogenic capsules. Of the 20,000 who boarded, only 500 survived. only my ancestor, one of the 500, was deemed emotionally strong enough by the computers to bear the truth, to learn what had happened to her grand scheme of survival. It was she who devised the great lie to save the others from the madness and despair which have now claimed my captain. And another revelation, my life mate, she says. So that's it. The final twist. The Fantastic Four get back in their ship. And Reed says, "Goodbye, number one. I'm sorry that I was not able to truly help." Number one responds, "Do not apologize, Reed Richards. I cherished a tiny hope that actually finding our promised world would set us free. But alas, you were right. We have changed in 500 generations. This ship is our only home now." Sad farewells completed, the Fantastic Four board their small exploratory module. Like some strange flower closing against the end of the day, the tiny craft seals itself and within seconds is hurtling once more into the emptiness beyond. So, I don't know. I don't understand why number one is content now just to wander aimlessly the universe. Why not go back to that planet? Why not get used to the weird flora and fauna and just live on the ground? But anyway, and Kastor's hope, its voyage will continue. The crew will be told that the planet was unsuitable. The captain's memory will be forever honoured in the legends of the last Kastorians. The quest, the unending quest, will go on. So there they go, into the negative zone, questing for nowhere forever. What next issue? What about the Fantastic Four? The FF face treachery and deceit, the minds of Mantracora. It all happens in 30 days. Over here, who or what are the minds of Mantracora, and why do they present a threat to the FF? And what's happening with Annihilus and Franklin and Alicia? Maybe we'll find out next issue if we're very, very good. So a few letters there, nothing terribly interesting. Statement of ownership though, so we get the figures in terms of the print run. So where is it there? The let's see, here it is. Average number of copies each issue during the preceding 12 months, 443,000. Single issue, 430,000. So it'll be interesting to see where those sales are in 12 issues time, in a year's time, because they should be going up. So healthy sales there. Well, the print run indicates healthy sales on the title. John Byrne having almost done 2 years on it now by this stage as writer-artist. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Fantastic Four issue 253. I think this done in one story was quite good, but I did find it very funny, Annihilus answering the phone. That was kind of hilarious. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.